Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's ESA webinar, Effective Sales Leadership During the COVID-19 Crisis. COVID-19 has turned businesses upside down. With containment measures in place, we are all navigating through a temporary new normal on communicating, managing a remote team, and more. So how can you effectively manage a remote sales team? How often should you be checking in? Is it realistic to think that salespeople will focus on new business right now? And what should salespeople be saying to prospects during the crisis? We'll discuss all of this with sales leadership transformation expert and ESA partner, Gretchen Gordon, president of Braveheart Sales Performance. I'm Jillian Bateman, ESA's Chief Development Officer, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. I'm going to hand it off to Gretchen in just a moment, but before I do, I have a few notes for those joining us for the first time on an ESA webinar today. You should know that all callers will be muted for the duration of our webinar, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. At any time, please feel free to ask a question by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your interface. There's no need to save those questions until the end of the session as something pops up. Go ahead and type that in and I'll ensure we have time to address those questions with our expert today. We'll also be recording today's webinar, so you can rewatch this on-demand video at your leisure and share it with your colleagues. Give us a couple hours to get this exported and hosted on the site, and you'll also receive an automated email tomorrow thanking you for your attendance with a link to the webinar and some of the resources that Gretchen will review today. Finally, in your control panel, you'll see a window for slide content and a window to see any speaker sharing their video, which Gretchen and I both are. Please feel free to double click on any one of those windows if you want to make them larger. So if there's anything on those slides that you want to see a little larger, double click that and it'll pop open for you. We at ESA realize your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of that time with us today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Gretchen Gordon. Gretchen is an award-winning sales and sales leadership expert who specializes in solving sales problems for clients. She is president of Braveheart Sales Performance, which is dedicated to transforming sales teams. She has a special focus in the security and systems integrator sectors, having been both a lender and an investor to the industry, and was also a former PERS business owner herself. She is a published author of several ebooks and has a sales management blog and has been recognized as a top 50 sales influencer. Gretchen?
Thanks, Jillian. I'm so glad to be here today. And we're going to be kind of fast-paced. So like Jillian said, feel free to send us your questions and I'm happy to address them as we go along. So let's get going. So let's talk first about what our objectives are. We're gonna provide you some additional tools to help you help your teams from a sales leadership perspective. We want to help you kind of narrow the focus during this crisis time and to help you narrow the focus for your salespeople, kind of simplify the process and really make it easier to lead and coach, especially during this kind of tumultuous time. So the first message I have is that your primary job has really not changed much. So we think that there are three primary elements of your job as a sales leader that are critically important. So motivating, holding people accountable, and coaching. And we're going to talk about these and how they weave into what you can do right now in a little bit more detail. But on the, the essence of motivating is to kind of understand the individuals on your team and what actually motivates them. So, how are they motivated and how motivated are they? And are they distracted right now from their core motivation? Number two, holding them accountable, not only accountable to, kind of daily activity plans and things like that, but holding them accountable to growth and development and helping them become the best salesperson they can be, even though right now might be a little bit of a weird time, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then coaching. And you actually, coaching is really the idea of helping salespeople become the best they can be. And coaching should really take, probably the most amount of time that it's ever taken right now. Even though you are not likely physically going out with your salespeople, right now is the time to be really one-on-one coaching, working with your sales team. So we'll get into some specifics here. But these three elements, you really should probably be spending at least 80% of your time doing them. Maybe even more right now because there is such a need for additional communication. So let's talk about hold on a second here. Yep. Let's talk about motivation for just a second. I said that it's important for you to understand the motivation tendencies of the people that report to you. And it's your job really as their leader to inspire them. You can't necessarily motivate somebody else, but you can inspire them. But right now in particular, extrinsically motivated people, and let me tell you what that is. Extrinsically motivated people are the people who are motivated more by money, recognition, and reward. And we tend to think of salespeople as being mostly extrinsically motivated. But my little chart here would beg to differ. Actually, more than 3/4 of salespeople are, and these are security salespeople, are intrinsically motivated, not extrinsically motivated. So they're not as motivated by money, rewards, recognition. Intrinsic means that they're motivated, by doing a job well, the satisfaction of doing the best they can do, and also, kind of helping the other guy. So making sure that the company and them and the client are taken care of. It doesn't mean that they're any less effective. It just means that traditional external methods of motivating aren't going to do it. But what we have to think about right now is that extrinsically motivated salespeople, and you might have some people who tend to, want to be in a role that has a low base and a higher upside potential, probably have the kind of ability to be more extrinsically motivated, but that's not necessarily a given. But you have to think about those people now. They're worried about where their money's coming from. They're worried about making their mortgage payment or their rent payment. So as their leader and manager, you have to get even more personal, I guess I would say, or intimate with them to help them think through the plan of attack so that they can get their feet back, get back on their feet when maybe things open up. But also, depending on the sector of the industry that you're in, you might be super, super busy right now as well. We have we have lots of clients who are doing lots of installations in empty school buildings and the like. So pay attention to how your people are motivated. Extrinsically motivated salespeople are going to be worried about the money, and intrinsically motivated people are going to worry about how they're going to get through this. They don't need the money and the rewards and the recognition, but they might be internalizing a bit too much. So that's one thing I really want you to pay attention to, and it requires that you have probably more interaction with all of your salespeople. Okay, so we have a poll. Jillian, our first poll. So the first poll is, what percentage of your salespeople are effective working remotely? And you should be able to answer that poll. So choose whether you think it's more than 75%, between 50 and 75, between 25 and 50, or fewer than or less than 25% of your people. So go ahead and vote now. And when we get those in, we'll show the results. Okay, we'll shut down the poll. And there's the results. Okay, so our attendees today, 39% indicate that more than 75% of their people are comfortable and effective working remotely. 50 to 75% is 30% of you voted that way, and 24% of you voted that between 25 and 50%, and just a fewer than 25%. Okay, so we can close that. All right, so here's a drum roll, please. Let me tell you what the truth is. Only 41% of salespeople are suitable for working remotely. So the people that voted between 25% and 50%, give yourself a pat on the back. So those of you that believe that a high percentage of your people are suitable for working remotely, it might be that they want to work remotely, but they might not be as skilled as we'd like them to be. So just do a little check-in. So we have the ability to measure thousands of salespeople, and we have found that this is a particular element. If you need them to work remotely, then we want you to, know whether they can do it or not. But in this case, not everybody that is able to work remotely is really skilled at doing it. And it's a lot of it has to do with they're accustomed to coming to a structured office maybe, or it has to do with they're more effective because they know that their manager is going to ask them what they're doing, or hey, guess what, their manager is going to give them a kick in the seat of the pants if they're in the office instead of out in the field. Well, obviously they can't really be out in the field right now. So what you need to pay attention to is the fact that they might be doing what this guy's doing. They might be, thinking that they're working kind of hard, but they really just aren't that skilled at doing it. So they might want to do it, but they just might need a little help. So that is another reason why, as their manager, you may need to hold them more accountable than before, more accountable to maybe little activities. You may need to be more precise in setting specific expectations about how they spend their time and what they're doing. And additionally, you may need to talk with them more and more frequently. Especially those of you that believe that the salespeople want to work remotely, they might want to, but they might need you to provide additional oversight. Okay, so how do you balance between setting expectations versus micromanaging? I hear from a lot of managers that, they don't want to, micromanage, quote unquote, their salespeople. And so in a time where we're expecting people to just keep doing what they've been doing, maybe the conversations are different with prospects and clients and that kind of thing. But if we're expecting them to continue on in the same fashion, you might need to check that thought process and spend more time kind of being clear about what the expectations are. So being very effective at communicating what the expectations are. And that way, if you and the salesperson agree, or salespeople agree to set expectations, then it's not like you're checking in to micromanage. It's just a check-in, and we'll talk about that in a minute about, how frequently and when do you do that, and what are some good ideas about doing that. But give the individual the leeway to control a little bit about when they do things, but that here's the expectation that you're spending the bulk of your day doing this, or, do you expect them to call all the existing clients and check in on them? That's a great communication path right now. Do you expect them to try and actually get installations scheduled into vacant buildings, like schools and things like that? Do you expect them to be laying the groundwork for new business when this virus is, behind us? You don't want to be a jerk about it, right? You don't want to ignore the fact that, number one, it might be harder to get a hold of prospects, but it might be easier actually because they might not, be distracted with a lot of different things going on in the office, for instance. You also have to take into consideration that some of your people might have children at home that they're having to deal with. They're having to, try to do work and then get their third grader on a lesson for school. And, we haven't been put in this situation before. So again, you don't want to be a jerk about that, but if you would set expectations about, hey, we still need you to be doing things to advance the business, whether that is calling all the clients and checking in really from the standpoint of, how are they doing and what's going on with them and being supportive. Or is it we need to continue to advance the ball down the field in terms of when this thing opens up, we need to close some new business, or we need to get some new business on the books. So work with your salespeople to craft a work plan that is workable. If they've got kids at home that they're, maybe they're with their spouse, they're figuring out who's going to, do the lessons today, and maybe your employee needs to help their kids for several hours a day or a few hours a day. Maybe there's a plan where they trade off with their spouse to say, I'll take the kids on, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 11, and then on Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4, and likewise. So set the expectations of what you need to have happen, but let them have control over when and how it might happen. And that will probably ease the stress just a little bit on both parts. It's not going to be normal. Now, you've probably got some salespeople who it's very normal. Maybe they're even totally accustomed to, they never come into the office unless they have to pick something up or drop something off. So you may have to be more individualized in the way that you manage your team, but really, setting the expectations will really avoid the feeling that you're managing them if you let them have some engagement in determining, what it is that or when it's going to happen and how they're going to accomplish the goals and the expectations that you've set out for them. So let's just talk about communication and interaction for a second. These aren't probably necessarily new thought processes, but this is a great time to start the discipline of a daily huddle if you weren't already doing it with the people on your team, meaning everybody's on a call at the same time. You could even call it a stand-up daily huddle, so you know that it's not going to last very long. And the idea is just to get everybody focused and thinking about what they need to be doing. And how they're going to contribute to the team. What it can also do is provide that social interaction that they might be accustomed to having when you worked in an office that is now missing. They're probably still talking to some people, maybe they're still talking to you, but it is helpful to have more briefer, more frequent interactions than maybe you even had before. Daily huddles are a great discipline regardless, but doing it now, it's like, hey, let's just start doing them virtually, and then maybe they continue on when you get back to people working in the office. This concept of a check-in and also a check-out, the idea of maybe we check in at the beginning of the day with everybody about what everybody's working on and what they've got coming up, and maybe there's an end of the day checkout as well. Kind of like, people say goodbye for the day if they're working in an office. That same concept can be very valuable when you're working from home. And also you'll probably find that some salespeople, this will benefit them because they'll have some structure around, hey, we're going to start at this time every day, which means get up, get dressed, and maybe shower and actually go to work. And then we're going to check out. We're going to say goodbye to everybody at a certain time. There's two benefits to that checkout concept. One is it, kind of makes sure that everybody's focused on the right things and that we're kind of putting brackets around our day. What it also does is, so for the people who need a little more inspiration to, kind of focus in, it gives them an outlet that they know that they're going to be able to talk to people every day, a couple times a day. But what it can also do is it can be a shut-off time for people who might have a tendency to work too long. Sometimes if an individual is not accustomed to working from home, the work may never end. Right? It just goes on and on and on. And all of a sudden they're burned out, or they're stressed out, or they're on the verge of burnout. And we don't want that for our employees either. So it can be okay, we're all going to go, do family time now, or we're shutting down the office now, kind of a thing. So those are just some thoughts. And then with regard to one-on-one coaching, I would recommend, if you weren't already having a weekly one-on-one scheduled set time that you were coaching each of the people on your team individually, now is also a great time to start that. If you were already doing that, but it sometimes morphed into just talking about deals and they were getting your advice on, pricing or what should they do, what should they say next, I would really use this opportunity to focus in on coaching skills. So, having a structured set time every week, and maybe you need to do it more frequently. If you've got newer salespeople on your team, you might need to do that more frequently than weekly. I would strongly encourage you, if this all happened after you'd hired some new salespeople, then let's make sure that we get them more interaction. Here's the message. As the leader of the team, you need more communication and more interaction now than you did before. I know it might be nice to just go, oh, great, nobody's walking in my office anymore and bugging me, and I don't have to answer the phone. I can choose, pick and choose when I do that. But absolutely, as the leader of your group, whether it's the leader of your sales team, or whether it's a leader of a whole branch, or whether it's the leader of the company and you've got salespeople that you're managing, your folks are going to watch what you do. And now is the time when leaders leave their legacies, and your legacy should be one of, helpfulness, servant leadership kind of attitude, helping them get through this. So get outside of your own head and focus in on how you can help the individuals on your team. Even if you don't have all the answers, even if you feel like I'm supposed to be the leader, I'm supposed to tell them, what we're doing, you may not have full command of everything that has to happen, but I guarantee you it's better to, talk to them more often than stick your head in the sand. So during, a time of anxiety, like we all are probably facing, and whether people, different people are going to react to things differently, right? They're going to have, some are going to roll with the punches. Some are going to be a little bit more stressed out about things. But regardless, there are absolutely distractions that are occurring. We never expected to have to send everybody home to work. So it's easy for them to get distracted by, well, what if this happens? And what if that doesn't happen? And, and what if we don't open back up for, May 1st or, whatever? What if I lose that piece of business? What if my income goes away? All those things are going around inside your team's head. And honestly, I'm guessing that they're somewhat happening inside your head as well. So here's what you need to do. You need to control what you can control. And here's a kind of a step-by-step process. You need action plans. Your people need action plans. It might be different than what they were doing, a month and a half or 2 months ago. So now is a great time to refresh what their action plans need to be. So it'd be a great time to have them create a new one. And that way they will also own their own behaviors and activities. And what I want you to think about is projecting out. There's kind of two elements to the action plan. One is right now. What can they do? Is there anything that they can do? And should they be quote unquote prospecting or selling right now? I don't have a silver bullet for that. What I do know is that your clients will appreciate more interaction, just like your salespeople will appreciate more interaction. Even if it's just, here's some thoughts about what you can do, client, with regard to your physical premises. Even if it's, hey, we're here for you. We know this is a tough time. So be genuine in your communication to your clients, customers, and prospects. But here's the thing. What you expect from your salespeople might need to be different right now, but I also want you thinking about laying the groundwork for when this is over. So now's a great time for them to think about, how do I want to be prepared when life goes back to, quasi-normal or normal? So we've created a sales action planning playbook, and it really starts with goals and helping individuals set specific goals, personal goals that then can tie to their work life, and then calculating what those goals mean in terms of how much business they need to generate, that kind of thing. So yes, we need our folks to focus right now on what they can do to, if they can close business or whether they can advance business, but we also want them, we don't want them being caught flat-footed when things change, because when they change, we don't want them left in the dust. So we want them planning for, what can I be doing now and what should I be doing in the future to help propel sales. And then finally, so it's goals, and then it's kind of calculating what they need to do to help them achieve their personal goals. And then the third thing is, okay, create the actual action plan of, what am I going to commit to doing on a daily basis to help me achieve those goals. We will have all these things available, and actually everybody will get an email from ESA following the broadcast today. It'll happen tomorrow, and it'll have all these tools that I'm talking about. You'll be able to download them. So that's one of the things that I would strongly encourage you to get into, a discipline of action planning with your salespeople. What better time than now? And there's very good reason to do it. Excuse me. Salespeople who actually have well-defined goals, personal goals I'm talking about, not just, hey, go sell this much, and plans to achieve them, possess all these traits. They are 33% more motivated than those that don't. They're 22% more likely not to make excuses about performance. They're 20% more comfortable just discussing money topics with their prospects and clients. They're 20% more proficient hunting for new business. They're 19% better being consultative in their selling approach. They're 18% better following a repeatable sales process, and they are 17% better at selling value. So those are some pretty compelling reasons to actually, set plans and to achieve specific goals. Just doing those things alone, it takes no, increased sales skill. So that's why I'm a big pusher of managers. Work with your salespeople to create goals and plans to achieve them. Okay, so next poll topic, if you want to go ahead and release that, Jillian. So we're going to vote on what percentage of security salespeople follow a repeatable and predictive selling process. So they follow, kind of the same process in their sales conversations. Do we think it's more than 75%, between 50 and 75, 25 to 50, or less than 25%? So go ahead and vote now. Vote quickly, and then we'll share the results with you. We'll share the results, and then I'll tell you what my data shares with me. So we actually have mined data specifically on security salespeople. We have thousands of them, and we know what percentage of security salespeople actually follow a repeatable sales plan. Okay, so it is shut down, and it looks like the biggest percentage, so 38% indicate that between 25 and 50%. So you guys went with the same answer as last time, right? So that's the same, kind of percentage. Well, I am going to close that. Yeah, go ahead and close that. And I'm going to say you guys are right. So 68% of security salespeople do not follow a repeatable sales process, which means that only 32% do. So sorry to make that too easy for you to guess that. So, and I actually, a lot of teams that we interact with believe that they're following a repeatable sales process, but what it typically is they kind of want to ask some questions and then they get derailed. So following a repeatable sales process will actually make salespeople far more successful just doing that alone. We actually have data that would indicate if you don't do anything, you don't improve your selling skills at all, you can actually close 15% more business than you otherwise would if you just followed a repeatable, predictive sales process. And as we said before, 68% of security salespeople don't follow a repeatable selling process. The picture I have here is irrelevant. It happens to be the sales process that we follow and that we teach our client sales teams to follow. So if you have a process, now would be the time to reinforce it so that you can see improvement in the conversations and ultimately in sales. Here's the thing. When times are great, we don't have to be that good at doing anything. The business just comes to us. Little side note. I started Braveheart Sales in 2009, which, as you may recall, was on the heels or kind of in the depths of the Great Recession. And started it because we wanted to help companies who were suffering from the economic downturn. And what ended up happening is we got called into an awful lot of security companies who had great success up until that point, were, phenomenally successful, really happy. But when the downturn hit and the phone quit ringing, not that their customers necessarily all went away. I mean, I know the attrition rates went up a little bit and that kind of thing, but they weren't getting as much call-in business. They weren't getting the stuff that just fell in the door. And what they learned was that they didn't necessarily have good hunting salespeople. They had salespeople who were more account managers or were more comfortable dealing with existing clients, or were perfectly fine closing business if the customer came to them. So here's the thing. Well, we're dealing with the virus crisis right now, and I know that a lot of, especially commercially focused security and systems integrators, security companies and systems integrators are, doing lots of installations and everything. If we, which it's likely that we're going to kind of dip into a recession. I'm sorry, I'm like the bad news bears here today. We're likely going to dip into a recession of some sort or a downturn of some sort. You're probably going to find that some of your salespeople were doing great in boom times, but might struggle now. So now would be the time, or now or into the future they might struggle. Now would be the time to reinforce a repeatable sales process and help them improve a selling skill at a time. You know, I'm a big believer in you can't boil the ocean. So let's help our individual salespeople pick something out that they can get better at. Can they ask more robust questions? Can they ask one extra question on every call? Can they find out how decisions are going to be made? Let them kind of work through also what they're going to pick to work on. But this can be combined with having more one-on-one coaching conversations. This can be a great, kind of starting point. Hey, salesperson, I'd like you to focus in on really finding out what the underlying issues are, problems or concerns or fears are of your clients. I want you to call, 20 clients a day, and I want you to find out these things, and then get them to agree that they're going to ask one more question, or they're going to ask one uncomfortable question or something like that. So here's some additional security sales stats. So these are about security salespeople. Most, 3/4 do not qualify very well. Almost 3/4 don't easily get to the decision maker if it's not easy, and almost all are not great at negotiating. So we talked about setting goals, and then we talked about having a selling process. Well, this can help if we know that they're not, maybe qualifying that well. A repeatable sales process can actually help in that regard. Some more depressing statistics from the security world are that most don't sell value very well. They're not terribly consultative. They're more transactional. 69% are not even comfortable discussing money, and 63% need to be liked more than they need to close business. So here's the deal. Your people are these people, and these are just security salespeople, and like I said, there's several thousand of them. So guess what? Right now, they're wasting time, and they're wasting even more time because they're uncomfortable doing a lot of these things, and guess what? Their world was just, turned upside down. So that's why I say set the goals and then have a repeatable sales process that you can help them follow, and then build those sales muscles. So as I said before, have them pick one area that they're going to focus on, maybe for the week or maybe for the day, or you don't have to do it every single day. You could say, okay, today is a sales muscle building day, and I want everybody on the team to pick one sales skill that they're going to, really improve upon. And in today's environment where we might not have the opportunity to quote unquote prospect as much, that kind of thing, maybe you think in terms of connecting, asking a deeper question. I want to improve my ability to ask more robust questions of my clients and prospects. So assign it for a day, or assign it for the week, and say, I want you to do this on every call 2 days this week, or I want you to do it on every call today or tomorrow, whatever. And then regroup and ask them, what specific element they worked on. We have a sales self scorecard that is also going to be provided to you that gives you some ideas of questions that they could be asking to navigate a certain sales process, and ask them for their input on what they want to work on. Now, obviously, you can give some guidance on that front, but here's the deal. If you get them to focus on something that they're going to improve every week, and they're going to do it, or maybe every day, and they're going to work on that, and they're going to, every conversation they have, they're going to improve on that particular skill, guess what? They're going to be way better. We're going to have a time of growth, not stagnation. But be sure that you're coaching. Be sure that you can use the sheet that you're going to have access to conduct a coaching conversation with them. And as I said, this can really be a moment of growth, as opposed to being stagnant. Think about how much better you'll be if you do it every single day. That is a Kobe Bryant quote that was in an interview that I recently saw. And, you know, he was notoriously known for outworking the other guy. What I want you to be thinking about with your sales teams are, what are the other guys doing? Let's outwork them. Let's get better. Let's use this time as growth, not a time of complacency. And if we can't sell aggressively right now, let's make sure that we are ready to be as good as we can be when things open back up. So that's the whole concept behind getting your people to really focus in on skills they can actually develop. So here's some, additional information. 85% of salespeople have some sales self-limiting beliefs and 63% lack emotional control. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So 85% of your salespeople, and we'll just say that collectively, have some self-limiting belief about selling. So they either think things like, well, I can't call them if they're already doing business with XYZ company, or they'll never talk to me, or I got to educate them. Well, I can't educate them if I can't show them how the system works, or I can't walk their property. So some offshoots of these self-limiting beliefs, or this negative mindset they might be experiencing right now are, well, I'm better selling in person. Well, guess what? They got to get over it. They got to adapt, because you can't sell in person right now by and large. So you've got to help them eliminate some of this head trash, I guess I would say, or these self-limiting beliefs. And if you can recognize that they might have some new ones, I'm not very good on the phone selling, or I don't like the way I look on video, so I don't want to talk to people via video camera. You've got to help them get over that. Additionally, the emotional control component has to do with staying focused on the process, staying focused on the repeatable selling process, or what's most important now, or what can I control right now, as opposed to all these distractions. So what do you think is happening right now with a lot of your salespeople? If you've got 85% of them have limiting beliefs about how effective they can be selling, and 63% of them lack emotional control, their heads are exploding with distraction and garbage and stuff that is just getting in their way. So now more than ever is a time to, number one, talk to them more frequently, give them some direction on what they can do and control what they can control. Don't let them live inside their head in their own house. You've got to help them break out of that. Additionally, they need to know what song you're singing right now. So you've got to maybe script them slightly differently than what you've done before. You've got to provide not only, the message, but how the tone of the message needs to be. When we evaluate sales teams, and this is very typical, we evaluate all the individuals on a sales team to figure out how to actually help the whole team get better. We routinely find one of the questions we ask is, kind of what's your value proposition? And all of the individual salespeople answer it, kind of anonymously. And what we typically find is that it's all over the map. So in good times, if it's all over the map, and the other thing is that their value proposition sounds like everybody else's value proposition, guess what? In good times it's a problem, it's a really bad problem right now. So if you aren't providing them the song that they're singing and the words and the music to it, they're going to be making it up on their own. So that's a great idea to conduct a group meeting. Let's just talk about what the messaging is that we're sending out to our folks. And don't just send it out in an email and say, this is what I want you telling people. People have to say it in their own words. And then kind of the final concept that I want to share is this concept of understanding their preferred communication style. So in coaching situations, if you're not familiar with DISC, it's an adaptation of Myers-Briggs, just like every other personality tool out there. And it kind of puts people in primary buckets. So people have a tendency to prefer to communicate in a certain way. If they are a D, they're more, they're a driver, hard charging, that kind of thing. An I is more of what they call an influencer, or, maybe more social. An S is kind of the person that is what they call the steady relater, wants everybody to get along. And the C is maybe the critical thinker or the more cautious person. So you've got to maybe adapt your style even more than ever. When people are under stress, they go to the worst, they resort to the most extreme of their typical communication style. So acknowledge that. Also, if you can have a conversation with your salespeople about that particular concept, knowing that their customers and their prospects are probably also under stress or potentially under stress, they need to adapt their style to what is going to connect with their prospects and customers better, just like you need to connect with your people. So the final poll, Jillian, poll number 3. We'd like to know what you are going to take away and implement as a result of this webcast. So are you going to, did you like the daily huddle or check in and check out with the team? Are you going to do that? Are you going to have more structured, scheduled one-on-one coaching conversations with each team member? Are you going to commit to having your people do new sales action planning? Are you going to use the sales self-scorecard that we'll provide you, or other periodic games, frankly, you don't have to use that, to make sure that people are improving their skills? Are you going to commit to creating new messages, or is there something else that isn't listed but maybe you thought of? So pick your number one item that you feel like you can implement with your team, and go ahead and vote. Give you another second here. All right. So sales action planning for the current times. Excellent. So you will receive that, and everybody else, I love that there were a variety of answers. And you don't have to just do one, obviously, but do one, get good at it, add another one. You will get that tool sent to you, or download, the ability to download that tool, the Sales Action Planning Playbook. So Jillian, do we have any questions that we need to address before we put some contact info? Here, I'll put the contact info up.
Sure. So one question that we had come in earlier was, how should salespeople be framing their message or their pitch right now, knowing, that we are battling a pandemic, and how do they open that conversation with prospects? What would you coach them?
So here's the thing. If you have a good relationship with them, that's easy, right? So normally people ask that question when you don't have a good relationship with them. So it's going to sound and it's going to feel really icky if you just out of the blue call them up and say, hey, I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. The prospect is going to hear, oh, they want to sell me something, right? If you don't have a good relationship. So here's what I would suggest is I would suggest that you maybe have a series. So maybe you have a soft series of communications. And maybe the first communication is, I know this is a crazy time for everybody. Obviously, these are my words, not yours. People have to speak in their own language. I know this is crazy time, and it might start with just an email, right? I know this is crazy time. Here's some thoughts I thought might help you. In this environment, it's probably best to be a giver. So if there are things you can give first, then you can, you can even share stories that, so give something and say, hey, here's some ideas about how some of our clients are protecting themselves, or here's some ideas that we've seen work for clients just like you. And then maybe the second thing is here's a story of things that we did to help clients. So almost like not like a case study, but hey, just wanted to let you know we're still doing things, and I thought I'd share with you that there's things that you can be doing, even though nobody can be in your place, and blah blah blah, whatever it is. And then maybe the third one is, hey, I know that I know that we're still hanging in there. Is there anything that I can help with? So if you start your messaging from a genuine spot of I want to provide help, it's going to be received better, but you probably have to do a little bit of a series if you don't have that strong relationship. Now, the other thing is that, depending on the niches that you're in and that kind of thing, where some of the commercial focus might be super busy right now. Like I said, I know clients of ours are crazy busy doing some things with regard to schools, for instance, because schools are empty, and so they can actually get installations done because there's nobody there. But that isn't the case for a lot of situations. So what you can also do is think about, okay, how is your world going to change when you come back to work? And maybe give some thought to, can I provide some tangible skills or tools or resources about maybe what other clients are doing so that they're preparing for when they get back to work. So it really has to come from, so here's the thing, it has to come from a spot of being genuine. Number two, the series makes it easier to get to that place. Number three, get outside of your own head and think about what the other guy is thinking about. What is the prospect or the customer dealing with? And the more you can focus in on what they're gonna care about, the less you'll be worried about what you're gonna sound like or that you come across as too salesy. So if your mission is truly genuine and focused towards helping your clients and prospects, then you'll have an easier time reaching out. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Gretchen. If you're live on the webinar with us, just a reminder, that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, you can type your question there. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, simply comment the question to us and we'll make sure that we pitch that to Gretchen as well. We've got a couple questions here about the presentation materials, and we'll make those available on ESA Web, and we'll also be emailing those resources out to you tomorrow. Is there a way that you should be measuring sales goals, maybe above and beyond, or metrics above and beyond actual sales right now, like number of meetings or number of touches, or maybe they're working on their lead list or something else?
Absolutely. That's a great question. My suggestion would be that you should probably be thinking about, if sales aren't realistic right now. So again, this is going to be customized for each individual situation. But just like I said a couple times, maybe now's the time that we reach out to every single client. And here's the thing. You can, as long as you set up any conversation with a client or prospect and say, listen, I don't want to impose, or this, I feel a little uncomfortable reaching out to you right now, but I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for you. It's something I call a precursor. It can soften it so that you will then have a conversation with them. So I would absolutely suggest that we think about maybe our KPIs or our metrics slightly differently. Maybe it is just, okay, I need you to talk to 10 clients a day, or I need you to talk to 25 clients a day, right? Whatever it is, right? And this is what we need to be talking about. And then you can even set your own little scorecard for that, I guess I would say, right? So how many clients did I talk to, and what did I talk about? And, here's the other thing. If any of your business comes from referral sources, you got to be reaching out to referral sources too and asking how they're doing and how are they coping and what can you do to help them. If it's a scenario where there's you refer some things to them and they refer to you, now's the time to be, like I said earlier, more of a giver. So absolutely set metrics that make sense. It's probably not going to make sense to have X number of closed pieces of business, but maybe it is going to make sense to measure how many conversations I had with clients where we talked about, something that might be valuable in the future. Likewise, how many referral sources can you talk to? How many prospects that were kind of maybe on the fence before, can you call and say, I know that this is probably not the time. I mean, you can even make a joke about it, right? This is probably not the time, but I just really want to check in on you. I'm not trying to close you. I mean, just be totally upfront and honest about it. Look, I'm not trying to close you. I just want to make sure that everything's okay with you and yours. And, and then, so those things can be very, very valuable. Here's the thing. Your clients and, as a leader, your salespeople are going to remember how you operated during this time. Your legacy is going to be left during this time. Likewise, your clients and your prospects are also going to remember how you and your company interacted with them during this time period as well.
Thanks, Gretchen. Do you have any tips for thresholds on reaching out with the soft messages? So how many times should we be touching prospects with soft messages more than typical? Is it biweekly? Is it weekly?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're going to have a series of like, hey, we're just going to give tips and we're just going to do it. Initially, biweekly is probably totally fine. We're actually, and by the way, I'm not an expert on the marketing side of these things. Okay, Jillian? But from a sales perspective, we're trying to give, as much as we can. So we're doing bi-weekly COVID-19 selling survival snippets that are shareable with, everybody, little video things, right? So you could do that, right? You could focus your energy on things that you could send to everybody that might be beneficial to everybody, and but make them short and not onerous and not, asking the people to do things, right? And you can send those more frequently. However, if you're trying to do soft messaging to a particular prospect, one-on-one, you probably need to change it up, I guess I would say. So, but if 2 or 3 is probably appropriate. More than that feels like you're chasing them at this moment of the pandemic. So sending here's what, just checking in and, here's some things that we're doing. We're still open. I hope you're well. And then maybe another one, and it might be in a different format, right? You might call the first time. You might send an email the second time. And then, and those could be maybe spaced out over a week apart. And then the third one would be more of a, hey, here's some ideas about things that we've done. I know that this might not be the right time, but if you want to talk about it, let me know. Something you can also do is, share fun things for your clients and your prospects, things that you find interesting that might have a security kind of bent that you can share with folks. And it doesn't have to be on LinkedIn. It can be on LinkedIn. It can be on Facebook. It can be in a lot of different places. But also, maybe your take on someone else's idea, obviously crediting them, and then sharing additional resources to, like, here's something that we've done. People love personal stories about what maybe your company is doing to engage folks. So, so I don't have, that's a long answer. I don't have a hard and fast answer of it should only be this long, but I do have, you don't want to become a pest. But if your mission, again, is, a noble one, let's say, is genuine, I want to provide resources, and, and if they then are going to view you in a better light, then that's okay. But obviously now is not the time to chase without some bit of empathy, I guess I would say, right? Now, you also have to realize that some people are going to use your good empathy to blow you off. So if you haven't done a great job on the front end of articulating the value, and they, from their perspective, that they see the value of what you bring to the table, then that's going to be a harder, battle to fight. There's no magic, there's no secret sauce to getting a cold prospect whom you have no or very little relationship with to appreciate you the way you appreciate you. So you kind of have to connect with them the way they'd want to be connected with.
Thank you, Gretchen. We also have a comment here, Conrad. You will not need a login on ESA Web to access any of these resources, and it will be emailed directly to you. We also will be announcing for ESA members an opportunity to take online training with Gretchen so that you can do a deeper dive with some of these online recorded classes and resources to really beef up your sales team development at this time. If there aren't any further questions, which I don't see any at this time, I'd like to thank Gretchen for your time today on today's webinar, and for all of you who've joined us. Hi out there on Facebook, thanks for the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.
Great, and appreciate everybody's time. Now's a great time to build your sales muscle, so we're going to give you a whole slew in conjunction with ESA. So thank you, ESA, for having me do this. We're going to give you a whole bunch of things that can help you build your sales muscles. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.